This is Kilo, and today I'm going to show you guys how to rekey the new version of the Kwikset Smart Lock that uses the SC1 Keyway from Schlage. Now, this was requested by some subscribers who saw my original, or one of my earlier videos where I show you how to rekey the original version of this lock with the KW1 Keyway. If you haven't seen that and that's what you're working on, click this link here and I walk you through that process. It's super quick and super simple. Now, this one won't be as quick as there are some notable differences that I want to point out before you get started. Number one, Kwikset does put a disclaimer that you should, prior to the rekey process, insert the new key that you want to key the lock to in order to make sure that it is compatible. Not all of the Schlage keys are going to be compatible with this keyway. So make sure that you take your new key, not the original that comes with the lock, but the new key that you want to key it to, insert it, make sure that there's no resistance, that it's not, you're not having to try and force the key in. And you also want to make sure that the shoulder, which is this step that kind of comes out and drops just before the cuts, make sure that this is flush against the face of the plug. If there is any gap between the shoulder and the face of the plug, and you go through with the rekey process, you can find yourself locked out and you'll have to take it to a locksmith unless you can find where you had that gap and mess with it that way. But that was one thing that I wanted to note before we get started, is that you have a compatible key. Secondly, if you are installing a full lock set, by full lock set I mean that you are installing the knob and the deadbolt, make sure that the door is open and that the deadbolt is in the locked position. Do not try this with the door closed, as if you put the deadbolt in the locked position with the door closed and something happens along and screws up during the process, you won't find yourself locked out of your house. And on a side note from that, if you find yourself locked out and you installed smart locks on all of the doors in your home, it's going to cost roughly 3 times the amount, and sometimes even more if it's after hours, for a locksmith to get you back in, as opposed to if you had standard locks. This is because smart locks are notoriously difficult to pick. The early models locksmiths can get into very quickly. These newer styles, if the locksmith is not familiar with any tactics, in a lot of cases they come out and they'll just drill these locks. In that case, you're going to end up being out the money that you spent, and these smart locks are not cheap at the big box stores, and then you'll have to buy another lock, and if you want to replace it with another smart lock, that's even more money. So just know that, as a heads up, locksmiths really hate these locks. They despise them. Many lock shops don't even sell smart locks, and they will try and convince you to buy anything else, mostly because of the fact that if we get called back out to it, it's usually a nightmare scenario in a lockout. If you have a knob like this one and that's all you find yourself locked out from, in many cases, like I could get into this lock very quickly in just a couple of seconds and get you in. If your deadbolt is locked as well, it's going to cost you a lot more money. So just as a heads up, I wanted to throw that in there for anybody who is planning on putting smart locks on all of the doors. Just know it's going to cost you more in a lockout situation. Now, those are the two biggest notable differences. And something else is these tools here. These are the change tools that you use in the rekey process. All that really changed was the shape of the tool. This is the original. It's shaped like that, whatever shape that is. And then you have this new one that actually kind of looks like a key. But all that really matters is the tip, and they both are pretty much the same, and they perform the same job. So it doesn't matter which one you have. If you go and you pick up a Rekey set, for the smart lock at Home Depot, they come like this with the Kwikset version. It will work on the SC1 version, just in case that's the scenario you're in. But we're going to go ahead and use this one just because this is what comes with this lock. Now, there is another difference we will get to, but we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. All you're going to need is the original key that came with the lock, your new key that you want to key the lock to, and the change tool. So just like with the original version, you're going to insert the original key. Now, where it differs here is on the Kwikset KW1 version, you used to turn the key to the right. With this version, you turn the key 90 degrees to the left. And from here, you take your change tool, and this is something that I can foresee being a problem. On the KW1 version, if you watched the original video that I show how to rekey that lock, when you insert this tool, you wait to hear a click. A lot of homeowners rely on that click. This particular lock, I don't know if it's just mine, but if it's like this throughout all of the SC1 versions, it's going to inevitably cause problems. I can see that now for locksmiths to have to come out and fix these, or people bringing these in to be reset. This tool, when you press it in, it does not make any sound. There is no click, and I will show you that here. So make sure that since there is no click that you might rely on from the original version, make sure that you just press firmly. So press in, and you see there is no click. That, I can see that's going to be a problem. But you leave the key in the same position, 90 degrees, remove it, take your new key, place it into the lock in the same position you removed the original, turn it 180 degrees, and then back to the 12 o'clock position, and you have now rekeyed your new SC1 version of the smart lock. We'll go ahead and put it back in, and he works perfectly. We'll go ahead and try out the old key. We placed him in, and he is useless, and he no longer works. So something else to note here before I finish this video, I just want to throw this in. The two most common problems that people run into when rekeying these themselves is they leave too much of a gap between the shoulder and the face of the plug. If you do that, let's say that the key is out just a little bit, all of your cuts are going to be slightly off. They're not going to line up. So you're going to have to find that gap that you had in order to try and fix the problem. That is something you can do before you go spend money at a locksmith, is try, if you run into that problem, try and just insert it at different depths just to see if you can find that gap. And if you can turn it over, you can just go about the rekey process again to fix it. Also, the second most common problem is that when people they insert their new key and turn it back 180 degrees to complete this process, they apply a lot, like a heavy forward pressure when they turn it back, and then they find themselves like, my key's not working. It's because when you press too hard, you throw the cuts off the opposite way. And so if you're running into that problem, all you got to do is just press some pressure and see if you can get it to turn over, and then again go about your rekey process all over again. Just make sure that when you insert the new key, insert it until it's flush with the shoulder. Do not apply any pressure. As long as it's flush, you just turn it 180 degrees back to the 12 o'clock position, and you should be fine. I just wanted to throw those things in there, as that was an issue some people had when they watched my first video, and it's also something that I see all the time as a locksmith. When people bring me their smart locks, sometimes I just can put a lot of pressure and turn it over and show them what they did, or I can kind of find the gap that they had and turn it over that way, and I kind of show them, like, if you run into this, that's probably your problem. So just wanted to throw that in here before I finish the video. And you know, that's really all I have to this one. So hopefully it helps you guys. And if you guys learned something, or you guys want to learn more about locksmithing or lock picking, or you want to learn some other DIY helpful tips, you can feel free to subscribe. And I'm trying to upload on a consistent basis. I have a lot of suggestions for different videos coming up, but that's all I have to this one. So, you know, good luck on your project, good luck on your job, and I hope you guys have a nice day.